So in the last class, we had discussed the different types of companies on the basis of number of members and size. Moving on to the next one. So what we are going to do now is discuss the different types of companies on the basis of control. So on the basis of control, we have three types of company: holding, subsidiary and associate. So let's start with the first one, holding. If you remember, in the previous lecture, when I was teaching you private company, I had come across the word holding. And there I had told you the relation of holding and subsidiary is interrelated. That is, if I am your holding, you are automatically my subsidiary. So the relation is what? The relation is interrelated. So this relation is interrelated is very much evident from the definition of the company holding. How the act defines the term holding? It says that a company is said to be the holding of one or more other companies if such one or more other companies is its subsidiary. That means, if I put it in simple terms, the definition of holding and subsidiary says that I am your holding if you are my subsidiary. Finish. I am your holding if you are my subsidiary. The relation is interrelated. I am your holding if you are my subsidiary. But it tells us that the relation is interrelated, but it really does not tell us at all how the relation of holding and subsidiary is created. So let's look into the definition of subsidiary to understand how the relation is actually created. So if we look at the definition of subsidiary, it actually tells us how the relation is created. A company is said to be the subsidiary of another if such other controls the composition of the board of directors or exercises or controls more than one half of the total voting power either on its own or together with one or more of its subsidiaries. I'll explain everything, don't worry about that. Provided that it should not go beyond the layers specified, right? Provided that it should not go beyond the layers specified. Now, so the relation of holding subsidiary is created if any of one of this condition is fulfilled. A company is said to be the subsidiary of another if such other. I have got people asking me after I've explained the whole topic, ma'am, who is holding, who is subsidiary? If such other controls the composition, so the company controlling the composition will be holding or subsidiary. Please understand, the simple logic is I am controlling, so I am holding. You are controlled, so you are subsidiary. Right? Please understand, please remember, when I say I am controlling, if I am controlling, I am holding. You are being controlled, you are subsidiary. So what does this mean? Control the composition of the board of directors. Controls the composition of the board of director means the right to appoint or remove, right? The right to appoint or remove the majority of the directors. What is controls the composition of the board of directors? The right to appoint or remove the majority of the directors. So when I have a right to appoint or remove the majority of the directors, I control the composition of the board of directors. Let's understand this. Let's say I'm going to give you a lot of examples here. Okay. So please try to understand each of the example very carefully. Let's say X Limited has 7 directors, right? X Limited has how many directors? X Limited has 7 directors, correct? X Limited has 7 directors. Of this 7 directors, 4 are appointed by Y Limited, right? 4 are appointed by Y Limited and 3 are appointed by Z Limited, right? X Limited has 7 directors. Of this 7 directors, 4 are appointed by Y Limited and 3 are appointed by Z Limited. Now, can I say Y Limited controls the composition of the board of directors? What is the total number of directors? 7, of which 4 are appointed. What is majority? 7 ka majority. What is 7 ka majority? 4. 4 is appointed by Y Limited. So, can I say Y Limited is the holding of X Limited? Yes or no? Yes. It is the holding of X Limited. Now, can I say Z Limited is the holding of X Limited? No. Because you should have a right to appoint or remove the majority of the directors. You should have a right to appoint or remove the majority of the directors. Here, the total is 7. What is majority? 4 or 3? 4. 3 is not majority. So, Z Limited is not the holding of X Limited. Now, many of you would be wondering, yo, what if the number is 8? I have got questions like that actually. What if the number is 8? Okay, well, if the number is 8, 4 is not the majority, it's half. So, majority would be 5. So, if you have the right to appoint 5 or more directors, then you are controlling the composition of the board of directors. So, I repeat again, what is control the composition of the board of directors? The right to appoint or remove the majority of the directors. And when one company has a right to appoint or remove the majority of the directors in another company, that company controls the composition of the board of directors. I hope it's clear to everyone. Yes? Then, let's move to the next part. What it says, exercises or controls more than one half of the total voting power either on its own or together with one or more of its subsidiaries. So what does this mean? I want everyone's attention here. I'm going to discuss a lot of examples here. I want everyone's attention here. More than one half of the total voting power. X Limited has 2 lakh equity shares. Of this 2 lakh equity shares, 1,10,000 shares are held by Y Limited. Can I say Y Limited holds more than one half of the total voting power? Yes, yes. 2 lakh What is more than one half? More than 1 lakh. It is holding 1,10,000. Is it the holding of X Limited? Is it the holding of X Limited? Yes. Let's take another case. X Limited has 2 lakh shares, 1 lakh equity, 1 lakh preference. Okay. Y Limited is holding 75,000 of these equity shares. Is Y Limited the holding of X Limited? Tell me, is Y Limited the holding of X Limited? Ma'am, total shares is 2 lakh. You are holding only 75,000. How can you be the holding? But see, what is given here? Voting power. Now, preference shares do not give you any voting power. So, since preference shares do not give you any voting power, we don't consider them. So, what do we consider? We consider the equity. And in this equity, you are holding how much? 75,000. So, this will not be considered. Considering this 1 lakh, you are holding 75%. So, are you the holding? Yes. Please understand who is holding. Y Limited holds the shares. So, Y Limited controls. So, Y Limited is the holding. I hope it's clear. Because, see what the definition says. If such other holds more than one half. So, if such other, that means who is holding? Y Limited has to hold. And if Y Limited hold, it's controlling. And if it is controlling, it becomes the holding. Right? Let's take another case. I hope all of these examples are clear to everyone. Right? Let's take another example. X Limited has 2 lakh shares. Right? Now, when we say, when they, okay, I'll not tell you all this right now. I'll talk about it later. When they just say no shares and nothing is given, then it is implied it's equity shares. If they say there are 2 lakh shares, 1 lakh equity, 1 lakh preference, then it is 1 lakh equity, 1 lakh preference. But if nothing is given, whether it's equity or whether it's preference, I mean the total share capital, that means it's equity only. Right? So, X Limited has 2 lakh shares. Since nothing is given here, whether shares are equity or the shares are preference, obviously the shares are what? Equity shares. X Limited has 2 lakh equity shares. Now, generally, one share gives you one vote. The general is that you have one share, you have one vote. Every share gives you one vote. That's the general. X Limited has 2 lakh equity shares where 1,50,000 shares is one share is equal to one vote. Right? 1,50,000 share is one share, one vote. But 50,000 shares where 10 shares will give you one vote. See, generally, voting is done by either show of hands or voting is done by poll. If the voting is done by show of hands, everyone has equal votes. I have 100 shares, I'll still have one vote. You have 10 shares, you'll still have one vote. So that's how it is. But when it is, voting is done by poll, you get in proportion to your shares. And each share gives you one vote. But we have a concept of DVRs, differential voting rights, where the voting may not be the same. It could be one share, 10 votes. It could be 10 share, one votes, whatever. Okay? I'm not going into the details of what is DVR now because when we come to the chapter share capital and debentures, we have this topic there. I'm going to explain it to you. So this is known as DVR. So here 10 shares, if you hold 10 shares, then you get 1 vote. That is how these shares are. Now, Y Limited is holding 75,500 shares in X Limited. Which shares? This shares. 1 share, 1 vote. Those shares, it is holding 75,500 shares in Y Limited. Okay. So X Limited has 2 lakh shares, where 1,50,000 shares is 1 share 1 vote and 50,000 shares are 10 share 1 vote. Of this, Y Limited is holding 75,500 shares in X Limited. Right? My question is Y Limited holding of X Limited? So to check whether you are the holding of the other company, you must hold more than half of the total voting power. Right? Which is equal to more than half of what is the total voting power. If you have calculated on 1,50,000, you are wrong. Because here what they have said, they have not said of the type you are holding, but they have said total voting power. They are not talking about the type you are holding, they are saying total voting power. If you have written 2 lakh, that is also wrong because 2 lakh is the number of shares. Total voting power is 1,50,000 plus for this 50,000 the voting power is 5,000 because 10 shares 1 vote. So 50,000 shares, how many votes? 5,000 votes. So it has to be half of 1,55,000, which has to be more than 77,500. Right? Has to be more than 77,500. Here it is 75,500. So is it more than 77,500? No. So is it the holding of X Limited? No. Is it clear to everyone? Is it clear to everyone? Yes, I hope it's clear to everyone. Yes. Now, let's move on to the next one. So this was clear. So you become the subsidiary of another if you control the composition of the, if the other controls the composition of the board of directors or exercises or controls more than 1/2 of the total voting power either on its own or together with one or more of its subsidiaries, right? Now, let's take another case. X Limited, Y Limited, okay? Z Limited. X Limited is holding 35% shares in Z Limited. Y Limited is holding 25% shares in Z Limited. Okay. X Limited is the holding of Y Limited. Right? X Limited is the holding of Y Limited. So what is the relation between X and Y? X is the holding of Y Limited. Now X Limited is holding 35% of Z Limited. Y Limited is holding 25% of Z Limited. My question is, first, is X Limited the holding of Z Limited? Is Y Limited the holding of Z Limited? Now let's say standalone. Let's take standalone X Limited. What is the holding? 35%. Okay. Is it the holding? No. Let's say Y Limited standalone. Let's take Y Limited standalone. What is the holding? 25%. Is it holding? No. But what the Act says is exercises or controls more than one half of the total voting power either on its own or together with one or more of its subsidiaries. Either on its own or together with one or more of its subsidiaries. Here I am directly holding 35%. But my subsidiary is holding how much? 25%. So through my subsidiary, I am holding how much? 25%. So how much is it? 60%. So is X Limited the holding? Yes. Yes. What is given is I can directly hold or I can hold it through my subsidiary. Here I am directly not holding that much, but through my subsidiary, together with my subsidiary, I am holding how much? 60%. Is it more than half? Yes. So am I the subsidiary holding? Yes. Now what is given? Exercises or control. So I either exercise it directly or control it through my subsidiary, together with either on its own or together with one or more of its subsidiaries. I hope it is clear to everyone. Yes, I hope it's clear to everyone, right? So here standalone, if I see X Limited alone, no, the holding is not that much. If I see Y Limited alone, the holding is not that much. But through X Limited is the holding of Y Limited, and through Y Limited it is holding how much? 25%. So what is the total holding? 60%. But can I say Y Limited is also holding this 35%? No. It's not given through one or more of its subsidiaries or holding, only subsidiary. So I am controlling through subsidiary, but subsidiary cannot control through holding. So Y Limited is not the holding. I hope it's clear to everyone. Yes. Moving on to the next, let's take another case. X Limited holds 67% of Y Limited. I can say X Limited is the holding of Y Limited. Yes or no? Yes. Y Limited holds 72% of Z Limited. Can I say Y Limited is the holding of Z Limited? Yes. Can I say X Limited is the holding of Z Limited? See, the holding is 0%. Can I say? Yes, I can still say. A is equal to B, B is equal to C. Therefore, A is equal to what? C. I am directly not holding anything. But through my subsidiary, I am holding how much? 72%. So, I am also the holding. I am also the holding. If my subsidiary is a holding of another company, I am also the holding of that company. Right? X Limited holds 67% of Y Limited. Y Limited controls the composition of the board of directors of Z Limited. So can I say X Limited is the holding of Y Limited? Yes. Can I say Y Limited is the holding of Z Limited? Yes. Can I say X Limited is the holding of Z Limited? No, no, it is not holding anything, it is not controlling nothing. But because Y Limited is the subsidiary of X and Y Limited is the holding of Z, X Limited is also the holding of Z. Simple. If my subsidiary is the holding of another company, I am automatically the holding of that company. Correct? So A Limited is the holding of B Limited. B Limited is the holding of C Limited. Can I say A Limited is the holding of C Limited? Yes. C Limited is the holding of D Limited. Can I say A Limited is the holding of D Limited? Yes, that is how it is. But because of this overlapping, no, what happened? Two things were happening. Either people were indulging in fraud, right? Either people were indulging in fraud, or the second thing that was happening was that because of layers, we were not able to track where our investment actually is. So for that reason, the government said, provided it should not go beyond the layer specified, and they specified the layer as 2. That is, beyond 2 layers, you cannot be the holding subsidiary. This is for layers. I can have 10 separate subsidiaries. I can have 10 separate subsidiaries, but when it comes to the layering thing, this layer thing, then it cannot go beyond 2. So this is the first, this is the second. So this is not possible. I hope it is clear to everyone. Let's look into the definition of holding subsidiary. Holding company in relation to one or more other company means a company of which such companies are subsidiary companies. Okay, there is a problem with this color. Company of which such companies are subsidiaries. So this definition shows that the relation of holding subsidiary is what? Interrelated. I'm written this word for you to understand, not for you to write in the exam. Right? Now, means a company in which the holding company controls the composition of the board of directors. So please understand, who is controlling the composition? Board, holding company. Exercises or controls more than one half of the total voting power, either on its own or together with one or more of its subsidiaries, provided it shall not go beyond the layers specified. It shall not go beyond the layers specified. I hope it's clear to everyone. I hope this whole thing was clear to everyone. Yes? Now, moving on. Let's say X Limited incorporated in New Delhi, Y Limited incorporated in Kolkata, and X Limited holds 72% of Y Limited, right? X Limited holds 72% of Y Limited. Now, can we say X Limited is the holding of Y Limited? Yes, yes, yes. Instead of New Delhi, if it was New York, now what is the answer? If instead of New Delhi, this was New York, now what is the answer? Would it still be regarded as holding subsidiary? Look at the definition. A company is said to be the holding of one or more other companies if such one or more other companies. So when I use the word company, what does the word company mean? What does the word company mean? Registered under this act or any other previous act. But X Limited is neither incorporated under this act or any previous act. So as per this definition, it should not be holding subsidiary. But we do have foreign holdings and foreign subsidiaries. So this is a loophole. So they made an amendment and they added one explanation here. For the purpose of this clause, the term company includes a body corporate. For the purpose of this clause, the term company includes a body corporate. So you can see this here. For the purpose of this clause, company includes any body corporate. Now, what is a body corporate? Body corporate is a wider term. It includes both company, including foreign company, Indian as well as foreign company. So next time, whenever we use the word body corporate in law, be careful, it is including foreign company. So Y Limited, is it the holding? Yes. Now let's say Y Limited is in Delhi only. But sorry, X Limited is in Delhi only, but this Y Limited is in Russia. Okay. Is it still holding subsidiary? Yes, the same clause has been added even to the what? Definition of subsidiary. The term company includes a body corporate. So either the holding or the subsidiary, anyone can be foreign, right? Anyone can be foreign. Now let's say X Limited is in New York and Y Limited is in Russia. What now? Nothing. They don't even bother me at all. They both are not Indian company. How does it bother me? At least one of them should be Indian company to make us getting a little bothered about them. Doesn't make a difference at all. Is it clear to everyone? I hope it's clear to everyone. Yes. Now, I hope all of these examples were clear. The definition is clear. Everything is clear. Yes. Now we will move on to associate company. So if I look at the definition of associate company, a company is said to be the associate of another if such other has a significant influence over it, not being a subsidiary, and includes a joint venture. Let's leave the definition for the time being. Let's just look into an example. Okay, Go With You Limited is a company. There was another company, Never Go With You. So there was one company, Go With You Limited. There was another company, Never Go With You Limited. Now this Go With You Limited is holding 25% of total voting power of Never Go With You Limited. Is it holding? No. No. But here, Never Go With You Limited becomes the associate of Go With You Limited. So what does this actually mean? Let's understand this. Let's say there are two companies, company 1 and company 2. Company 1 has a significant influence over company 2. Okay, there are two companies, company 1 and company 2. Company 1 has a significant influence over company 2. Then company 2 becomes the associate. Who is influencing company 1? Who is being influenced? Company 2. So obviously company 2 is the associate. If you look at the definition, a company is said to be the associate of another if such other has a significant influence over it. A company is said to be the associate of another if such other has a significant influence over it. What is significant influence? Control of at least 20% of the total voting power or business decisions. right? Control of at least 20% of the total voting power or business decisions. So when here company 1 is that is Go With You Limited is holding 25% of Never Go With You Limited, can we say Go With You Limited has a significant influence over Never Go With You? Yes. And so Never Go With You becomes what? The associate. Right? Never Go With You becomes what? The associate. So if I have a significant influence over you, that is, what is significant influence? I am holding at least 20% of the total voting power or the business decisions in your company. I have a significant influence over you. Here, Go With You Limited holds 25% of total voting power of Never Go With You Limited. So it has a significant influence. So Never Go With You Limited is associate. Can I call Go With You Limited holding company? No. Because the term holding company is only used in context with subsidiary. Only a subsidiary has a holding. Associate ke liye they have not used the word holding. So we cannot say holding. But can I call Go With You Limited the parent or the investing company? Yes, but never the holding company. Right? So a company is said to be the associate of another if such other has a significant influence over it. Clear? Not being a subsidiary. Now what does this mean? What does this mean, not being a subsidiary? If this was not given from 20% to 100%, you would be what? Associate company. From more than 50% to 100%, you would be what? Subsidiary. Now this is overlapping. Some laws may apply to holding but not to some laws may apply to subsidiary but not to associate. Some may apply to associate, not to subsidiary. Now these are overlapping. So what should I do? So they have mentioned not being a subsidiary. That means what? 20 to 50 you are associate, but the moment it is more than 50 you become subsidiary, not associate. I hope it's clear to everyone. Yes. So in relation means a company in which that other company has a significant influence but which is not a subsidiary and includes a joint venture. So joint ventures, like we have Hero Honda joint venture is there, right? Was there, Maruti Suzuki. So these are joint ventures. So one of them, if let's say Suzuki controls the, has 20% or more of the holding in that, so or controls the composition of the, takes the business decisions, it becomes what? Associate. The Maruti Suzuki becomes associate of Suzuki. Correct? Now, otherwise everything is equal, no, in joint venture. But if I have extra 20% control, then it will become the joint venture, Maruti Suzuki will become my associate. One last thing here before this topic is over. However, shares held in fiduciary capacity shall not be taken. However, shares held in fiduciary capacity shall not be taken. Now, what do I mean by this? What do I mean by this? Shares held in fiduciary capacity shall not be taken. What do I mean by this? Let's say X Limited. Our Mr. Bhola is holding 25% of equity shares of X Limited. Right? Our Mr. Bhola is holding 25% of the shares of X Limited. Can I say X Limited is the associate of Mr. Bhola? For those who have got the answer as yes, no. Because associate is only between two companies. Associate is only between two companies. Here, Bhola is an individual, not a company. No, it's not associate. Now, can Bhola appoint a nominee for his shares? Yes. He appointed his son S, who is a minor, as a nominee. Can he appoint a minor as a nominee? Yes. But ma'am, in OPC we did. That was for OPC. In OPC, a minor cannot be a nominee. But for other companies, a minor can be a nominee. But we have to name a person as a trustee for the shares. That is, tomorrow, if the minor nominee is still a minor and the member is dead, then someone has to get these shares. No, someone has to take care of these shares. So this trustee has to be appointed who will take care of the shares while the person is, if the person dies. So they appointed a trustee, and the trustee was what? Y Limited. Can a company be a trustee? Absolutely yes. Now what happened was Mr. Bhola was Swaha. Mr. Bhola was Swaha. So when Mr. Bhola was Swaha, the shares will go to his son. Son is a minor, so it goes to the trustee Y Limited. Now Y Limited is holding 25% of equity shares of X Limited. So my question is X Limited the associate of Y Limited? Is X Limited the associate of Y Limited? X Limited, Bhola is holding 25% of the shares of X Limited. Then Bhola appointed his son, minor son, as a nominee for these shares, and appointed Y Limited as a trustee. But Mr. Bhola was dead. So the shares goes to his son, who is a minor, so it goes to his trustee. Now the trustee is holding 25% of the shares in X Limited. Is X Limited the associate of Y Limited? Now here, why is Y Limited holding the shares of X Limited? In its own capacity or as a trustee? As a trustee. Is it holding the shares in its personal capacity, in its own capacity? No. Just holding the shares as a what? As a trustee. When I am holding the shares as a trustee, I am what? I am holding the shares in a fiduciary capacity. And shares held in fiduciary capacity shall not be taken. So they will not be taken for this 20% control, that is significant influence, will not be considered. So is it the associate? No. If let us say Y Limited is personally holding 27% plus it gets this, then will it be a associate? Yes, then it will be associate because it's personally holding this much. But here it is holding as what? In the capacity of a trustee, and that will not be considered. So, it has been clarified that shares held by a company in another company in a fiduciary capacity, right, shall not be counted for the purpose of determining the relation of associate company. I hope it's clear to all of you. Yes, so please revise it before we will move to the next topic, that is government company, foreign company, in the next video.